Hi, and welcome back to Just Ask the Question. I'm your host, Brian Karem, and today, very special occasion. We just found out, according to FeedSpot podcasts, we are ranked number 2 behind Nicole Wallace for White House podcast. And look, the real reason for it isn't me; it's our guests. So, on our very first, it's very happy to have one of my very favorite guests on this show. She's got a great sense of humor, champion for justice, and a lot of fun to be around. Mary Trump. Mary, thanks for being here for this very special occasion.
This is a very special occasion. It's a real achievement given how much there is out there. I had nothing to do with it whatsoever, but I'm so happy, as you know, to be part of what you do. I love being on with you. We probably could talk about anything forever.
Yeah. We can start with
Unfortunately, though, we usually have to talk about the horror. So
yeah, well, the horror. You know what? You're a fan of science fiction.
I am.
So I will say after reading something that Elon Musk said, I'll tell you I think I figured out who he thinks he is in science fiction lore. If you remember Robert Heinlein, the man who sold the moon, he thinks he's D.D. Harriman. He thinks he's the guy that can get us to Mars by selling his soul and everything else and screwing over the rest of us. I think that's his hero.
Elon Musk, try it. Please. Have fun on Mars.
Go to Mars.
Wow.
Well, what do you think? I that's my stab in the dark with Elon.
I like it, and I just think he needs to take some other people with him. But yeah, I think that makes sense. And this is the thing, like that's really important to know. These people don't see themselves as heroes; they see themselves as supervillains, or they aspire to be supervillains, not heroes. Like that's why when during COVID, I was like, all Donald had to do was do this, that, or other, and he would have saved millions of people, and he would have been a hero. It's like, well, no, because that doesn't work for him. One, he's incapable of it, and two, like that doesn't give you street cred. What gives you street cred is being a criminal who gets away with your crimes. So
yeah, and speaking of which, getting away with the crime, I think there's nothing more apropos and more symbolic of who Donald Trump is than when he left Turkey. They had to sneak him out of Turkey in a bread truck, but because he's a doughy guy. So
I love the specificity of the bread truck.
Yeah,
it's like Wonder Bread, by the way, not like Eli's or So I think up until now, the thing that's been most emblematic of his regime and his who he is as a person would be the reflecting pool. This very simple thing that he screwed up from the very beginning, made infinitely worse, stole lots of money, enriched other people at taxpayers' expense, lied about it, broke the law to arrest. It's just so emblematic of what a desperate little loser creep he is. And now we have this. Now, on the one hand, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people understand what a physical coward this person is.
Well, I get it.
I know you do. But we could laugh at his being hunched over in the bread truck. Maybe they left a trail of McDonald's French fries to get him into it. Who knows? But it isn't, and it's funny because it just reveals just how pathetic and cowardly he is. But in doing that, he left, I don't know how many people on Air Force One as targets, because it's not like it was announced to the world, oh, Donald's not on the plane anymore, so don't bother blowing it up. They still thought he was on the plane. Until like 2 days ago, everybody thought he was on the plane. So it's not just the cowardice, it's the cruelty and the sense that nobody else matters. And I know there are going to be people out there say, hey, he's president of the United States. His life is more important than other people's lives. I mean, I personally dispute that that idea, but we're not talking about, he needed to be moved because he's more important because of his position. We're talking about his actively putting other people's lives at risk unnecessarily.
Yeah.
It's wild.
To your point, two things. First, I also thought that until this incident, that the reflecting pool, everybody said, oh, it's just a sideshow. I said, no, but what it does show more than anything else is that Donald Trump will go to any length to lie for even the smallest thing, and will persecute people for even the smallest slight.
That's right.
The canoeist, Jeff Hearn, I think was his name, didn't deserve any of what he got. And they could prove, and they lied to us, saying they could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. They didn't even investigate this case until after they indicted him. And then Janine Pirro, as dumb as she is, said, I can't take this to court. If she can't take it to court, what does that tell you? But
well, just really quickly, what it tells us is that she understands, because she is
a lawyer.
She is a lawyer. She was a judge, right? Like, I find that shocking. She understands that if she had continued down this path, she would have been disbarred. And what
still might be.
Refusal to do that put her on the outs with Donald, which shows us, as if we needed more evidence, that he will reject you not because you broke the law, but because you refuse to.
Yeah. I love that. That's a very good point. That's the exclamation point at the end of that sentence. Then this comes along.
Yep.
And to your point, again, I had friends who were on Air Force One in the reporting pool. There were other dignitaries, the pilots. There was more than Donnie on there. And while I agree that you have to protect the president's life, and maybe you don't announce it publicly, what you could do, by the way, is empty the damn plane.
Yes, you can.
Without telling anybody why.
Yeah.
They could have done that.
Or just say there are technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Or, some engine trouble. Who knows? It doesn't matter. They didn't do it because nobody else matters. And that's the problem. It's not just that nobody else matters to Donald. Think about how many people were involved in that decision. We're like, oh yeah, just leave him on the plane. If it gets blown up, what difference does it make? Because Donald's in the bread truck and he'll be safe. So as with the reflecting pool, it's just another instance of the abuse of power. I mean, I think in ways that, in technical ways, the abuse of power with the reflecting pool thing is worse because it's the president of the United States and his corrupt Justice Department using the rule of law to target innocent people to cover up for the president's incompetence. So that's bad in a very specific way. This is about endangering the lives of other human beings. So I think that everybody who was investigated and indicted for the reflecting pool thing should be suing this administration for everything they can get. And I think everybody on this plane should be suing Donald Trump personally and anybody involved in this decision for reckless endangerment, because it's absolutely insane. If they get away with this, I don't know. Well, they get away with everything.
Gotten away with everything so far, but what do I know? But I anticipate that he will try to. I don't think that Don will ever spend a day behind bars, but I think that Stephen Miller, and particularly Stephen Miller, has an orange jumpsuit in his future, and all the lawyers that have worked for him are going to end up disbarred. And then, like, Michael Cohen scrambling to get back in.
What a profile of courage that guy is. Who could have seen that coming?
Who would have guessed it? Yeah. Well, I did ask Michael when I was putting together this documentary that people will see. This was back in January. I asked him if he would, if he had the opportunity, would he rejoin Donald? And he did not say no then.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was readily apparent when Don was going back into office that he was looking for a way back in.
Yeah. And again, could have seen that coming, because people like Michael Cohen, they are criminals and they are thugs and they are only interested in their own bottom line, and they have absolutely no moral compass. So there you go.
Speaking of moral compass, this is what I really wanted to talk about today, the moral compass let's start with we could start with Don and his Patriot games. I don't even think he understands the Patriot games that he's going to Ohio for today. They're calling it the Hunger Games. He's probably calling it Patriot Games, not even knowing that is a slur, that comes from a song that was made fun of patriotism for hire. So I'll skip that one because it does remind me of the Hunger Games. But let's go with the fall election, the midterms.
Yeah.
I have listened for the last 3 weeks as the Republicans have tried desperately to spin a yarn because Donald Trump and the Republicans are deeply in trouble. Now, I've always said we have two parties in this country. One has no heart and one has no head, and the Democrats can always snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Always. It's our brand.
Yeah, that's the brand. But they got a real good shot. I mean, James Tallarico has a real good shot, even though Tim Scott thinks he's running in Michigan against somebody else. He's running against Ken Paxton, another friend of pedophiles in Texas. And and Tallarico isn't running a great campaign, but he's got a real good shot because of who he's running against. The Democrats, even if they fall over their own feet, are in good position to take the House and maybe the Senate. But according to the GOP, and let's talk about Michael Johnson, and let's talk about Donald Trump, telling us that jihadists and communists are running on the Democratic ticket and hold office. Now, for the record, I don't know of any jihadists or any communists that are in office anywhere. And as Thomas Massey pointed out, he talks about one party rule. Well, we're the party ruling. So, I'll forego all that. But the question is, do you think the Democrats are as divided and divisive among themselves as the Republicans paint them to be?
No, I don't. I think they're more divided than they should be. Like, get it together, guys. Like, seriously, keep your eyes on the ball here. And the infighting, to the extent that there is any, is not helpful.
No.
You know, we can disagree that there are certain establishment Democrats in power who shouldn't be anymore. We can disagree about that, or we can disagree that about some of the policies that progressives and democratic socialists are aspiring to implement. But we cannot disagree that any Democrat is infinitely better than the Nazis destroying our country.
Yeah.
I that seems like a no-brainer to me. But as is often the case, I think it's the conflicts, the intra-party conflicts on the Democratic side are being overblown because I guess corporate media continues to want to push that myth that
we need a narrative.
We need it, or that media has a liberal bias, which is just the most absurd thing I've ever heard and continue to hear.
Me too.
You know, I think Democrats will get it together because, one, it's a very big tent party, and two, it's really a matter of understanding that certain Democrats can't win in certain places and other kinds of Democrats can win in those places. And if you decide that the person who won a Democratic Party can't win in a general election and you don't support them, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So cut it out. You know, El Sayed should be getting the full backing of the DSCC and any other Democratic PACs out there. So any Democrat currently running for office should get the full support of the National Democratic Party, period, end of story, unless, you know, it's somebody like a Ken Paxton or, I mean, the Republicans have so many problematic candidates that are worse, who are worse than Graham Plattner.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that. Now, don't get me wrong. Graham Plattner should never, once that Nazi tattoo came out, goodbye. They waited way too long. But Democrats typically get it right eventually when their preferred candidates are found to be seriously problematic. The Republicans normalize all of it. Mike Johnson is fundraising for a guy who's one of the most despicable misogynists. I can't remember his name. He's also down in
Max
Texas.
Miller?
No, that's Ohio.
Yeah,
But
there's another
Donald,
one.
I mean, it's like there are so many of them. There's one in Colorado. There are a couple in Texas. Like they are everywhere, but we don't hear about them. All we heard about for a month was Graham Plattner. We hear about none of these, none of them. And the reason is because the Republican Party is continuing to fundraise and endorse and support them.
To your, that's a good point. Talking to Fred Wellman, who won Missouri's 2nd district and he couldn't get help out of the Democratic National Party. He raised funds by himself. And I was lamenting that I've covered some of these races. For example, the Tallarico race, when I showed up for a press conference there, the press team didn't know how to set up a podium, didn't know where to put a light, was trying to put the press, 40 or 50 people on a balcony the size of a postage stamp. And then when I asked, I said, is this your first, I asked one of the press, hey, is this your first race? And they said, no, it's my second. And I go, wow. And that's for the U.S. Senate. And Wellman said something that I'll never forget. He goes, the problem with the Democratic Party is that we often send the Little League team to play in the World Series. And so because I understand that there's money problems, there's a lot of races, but the Republicans always seem to circle their wagons and get the strongest people in the most important races. And I don't know that the DCCC or the DSCC does that. And I know that that's a problem. So my question is, do you think, I agree with you that different Democrats work better in some districts than others.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Donnie, outside, wouldn't work in West Virginia.
No.
Whereas, there are people that are running there that will. But systemically, do you think at the top there has to be a change with the Democrats, or is that not a problem? How do you see it?
Oh, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And by the way, the guy is in Texas. I'm talking about that misogynist, creepy gun. He's referred to as a gun influencer, as if that's the thing you should aspire to be. His name is Brandon Herrera, and he's running in the 23rd congressional district. And he's vile. He's vile. And Mike Johnson, and violent, and holier than thou, pious little choir boy. Bullshit. Mike Johnson is fundraising for him, but. Anyway, hypocrisy is now the Republican bread. As for the Democrats, I mean, there are a couple of things. Obviously, we need to revamp the leadership structure in the Democratic Party, but we also need to change the way we do things. And one of the problems is the Democratic Party has failed to build infrastructure from the ground up. So that when you have every candidate doesn't have to build the plane while they're flying it. Like, it's ridiculous that any Democratic candidate doesn't have a toolkit of, here's the stuff you need and we'll provide it for you when you're ready to go out and run. Like, here's how you get out the vote. Here's a microphone. Here's an AV system. Here's a social media primer. I mean, whatever it is.
Here's someone who knows how to run it.
Yeah. And the fact that literally every candidate has to build all of that stuff for themselves is insane. And it's a waste of time and money and resources. So I think it isn't simply about the people who are in charge. It's about how to envision building a party that can play everywhere, because all of the work's been done already.
Yeah, so look, going forward, and I want to get outside in a second to his race, but going forward, how would you, if you were running the Democratic Party, not that I would nominate you to run it, but if you were running it, progressive politics aside, conservative politics aside, middle of the road politics aside, how should the Democrats change what they do nationally in order to get people to vote for them?
Well, first of all, you would never want me running the DNC. It's not something I should be doing. So like, I don't want to throw stones, because I can't even imagine how impossible that job is. Which suggests to me that there does need to be not necessarily a change in the people in leadership, although maybe that's the case, but a change in how leadership functions, and a change in the hierarchy. So in terms of how the DNC should work and the message should be sending is, first of all, it should have a message. It should be able to tell a story. You talk about this all the time. You win by having a compelling story. You win by crafting a narrative that actually appeals to people, by letting them know you understand where they are, where they're coming from, and what they need from you. So I think one of the problems that plagues our politics, thank you, John Roberts, you creep, is Citizens United and dark money and super PACs and what have you. And I absolutely believe that Democrats should do whatever they can do to compete financially, because Republicans will always have a money advantage. But at the same time, Democrats need to make it clear that they hate this system. They want to dismantle it completely, because it takes away from anybody who gets power. It takes away from their ability to do as much as they possibly can for their constituents. So, so by participating in this system, which again, I think it's impossible not to, because you already start with two hands tied behind your back. But you can do that in a way that is not as slimy. You can do it in a way that ensures people that people involved in fundraising aren't getting rich off of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something that Democrats ultimately want to end. I think that's one way of doing it.
And to clarify, when you're talking about dismantling the system, you're talking about the money system.
Yes.
Because when I hear that, the Republicans go, see, they want to dismantle the Constitution. And I have to say, no, that's not what they're talking about.
No, that's the Republicans want to do that, obviously.
That's what which brings me to, I know there's so much we could cover, but
I know.
The last thing I want to go, the outside race in Michigan. Now, the week before the 2024 general election, I was in Detroit, and unfortunately, I was staying on a floor below Donald when he was there speaking.
Sorry,
I was there speaking. I was a keynote speaker at a Arab American meeting, and so there's 300 Arab Americans that I'm speaking to in this room, and I'm talking about the problems of Donald Trump. And they listened quietly and politely. And afterwards, I was shocked to learn that they were all voting for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And now they are all voting for someone who isn't Donald Trump, who is a progressive Democrat, who, by the way, speaks about dismantling the money in politics, talks about ending ICE, which many people want, and talks about taking the money out of politics altogether. Now, none of those things seem all that wild to me, but I have Tim Scott, who won't say anything other than his name when we talk to him on Capitol Hill, as if being Muslim is an automatic no. And at the same time,
wait, unless you're Mehmet Oz, in which case it's fine.
Yes, yeah, and well, then that's okay, because that's
or
who he is.
Mohammed bin Salman.
Yeah, yeah, MBS is fine with them as long as they're killing journalists. And so at the end of the day, I look at that and go, I'm there's hypocrisy on both sides of the aisle on this one. And I do like the guy as a candidate and hearing what he has to say. I'm upset that the Democrats haven't messaged it better, and I'm really pissed off that the Republicans are simply being disingenuous when they discuss who and what he is. And so I wanted your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, Republicans have made an art out of coming up with the most juvenile, puerile messaging to, whether it's claiming that Haitians are eating people's pets, or every time you say Barack Obama's name, you include his middle name, Hussein, as if that makes him I'm sure you're aware of this, but Donald was speaking at an event, and one of the speakers was he mentioned a police officer's name who had
I
fallen in the
saw
line
that.
of duty. He was going to be he was going to be honored. And all he did was say the guy's name, which is an Arab name.
Austin Abudi, I believe was it. His first name was Austin. This was in Las Vegas, and was the governor of Nevada who said it.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And no, all he did was say the man's name, and the crowd started booing because it's a Muslim sounding name. So, yeah, Republicans do not have the moral high ground here or anywhere. And I think that the issue in 2024 was very specific to Gaza. And the problem with being with that situation is that there was this, which I believe was a completely mistaken notion, that Donald was going to be better than Biden. And as we've seen, he has been infinitely worse. And, hopefully people have figured that one out. And as far as El Sayed, I mean, he was my preferred candidate. But I don't live in Michigan, so it doesn't matter what I think. But Michigan voters thought so too, although it was a very close race.
Close race, yeah.
What does give me hope, though, is the way in which and the immediacy with which Gretchen Whitmer, Chuck Schumer, and Mallory McMorrow, who ran against him and dropped out, and Whitmer and Schumer, who endorsed Haley Stevens, his opponent, and Haley Stevens, all came out immediately in support of El Sayed. So I think that is a very good sign, maybe lessons learned from what happened with Mamdani.
See, and that goes to the point, I think, that a lot of the divisiveness that we hear of in the Democratic Party is created by us in the media. I think that we pick on a narrative, whether or not it has actual basis. It may have a slight basis, in fact, but it's a good, as you were talking about, politicians need a narrative to run. We need a narrative in the press. And systemically, we don't have the experience that we once had. Systemically, it's just not there. And so you have young reporters who don't know what they're doing, going out, and that's the first thing, and it's the easiest thing to grab hold of. And we amplify the voice as much as we want to, as much as everyone claims that we are liberally biased. It's obvious that we take talking points from the right to battle that perceived media bias. And that's a problem.
Absolutely. And that's been a problem for a very, very long time. And, the cruel irony is the reason that continues to happen is that it's right-wing media that invented the myth of liberal media bias. So the media continue to combat a problem that never, ever existed, when in fact, it turns out that the truth has a liberal bias.
Yeah, facts do. That's for damn
even
sure.
Better. Because who knows what the truth is anymore? My goodness.
But facts, they do. So I'll end it. I know you got to run, but I'll ask you. Let's go back to science fiction. End on something fun.
Yeah.
What would if you're going to pick up a science fiction novel today, old or new? What do you want to pick up and read?
As a kid, science fiction was pretty much the only genre I read until I was about 12. I was an Isaac Asimov completist. I read everything, though. Heinlein, Herbert, Philip Jose Farmer, Ray Bradbury. Asimov was my favorite. However, the greatest science fiction novel ever written is Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. Start there.
And I would say, if you're an Asimov fan, don't watch the Foundation trilogy on TV. It's horrible.
And by the way, the reason it's horrible is because the books are untranslatable into film. They just are.
I think so too. And the idea of, violence is the last refuge of the incompetent doesn't play well on television when you want action. So they perverted it.
Wow, what a concept.
So they've completely perverted that concept, and there's plenty of violence. So I guess that is the last refuge of the incompetent. Just ask Donald. With that said, we'll let you go. Is there anything you want to plug, Mary?
Just check me out on Substack. My Substack is called The Good in Us, and we have Mary Trump Media YouTube channel. We're over there. We're on all the socials, et cetera, et cetera. But I just want to say again, Brian, Congratulations. Nobody deserves it more.
Oh, God
And,
bless
you
you.
know, Nicole Wallace, Brian's got it for you, metaphorically speaking.
Well, we'll have to have you on the press show on the weekend when we do the weekend review of the news sometime. You'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we also need more than half an hour is just not going to cut it. My goodness.
Yeah. But anytime, well, you know, I love you. Anytime you want to come on, I'd love to have you.
All right, I love you, Brian. It's so good to see you. It's been way too long.
It has. With that said, this is Just Ask the Question. I'm your host, Brian Karem. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.